good, YouTube? We back with another video. We're gonna get right into it. A case almost too gruesome to mention. Jimmy Prout. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Prout. I'm illiterate. I don't know. Like, comment, subscribe, okay? I am live on Twitch every day. Tune the fuck in.
Hi, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I want to try and get to 1 million subscribers. Thank you. This case takes place in the United Kingdom in the year 2016. The case you're about to hear ranks amongst the very worst. It has
the very worst. God damn, nigga. And why I feel like why most of the shit that I've been hearing from, that I've been like, when I watch like Disturbing, most of his crazy shit that I be hearing, like most of the craziest stories I be hearing come from motherfucking London, bro. This shit crazy. Is London that bad?
a manipulative, narcissistic leader, and the naive followers who, under intense control and coercion, became perpetrators, and finishes in the brutal end of a vulnerable man. This case begins with a man named Zahid. Zahid was born in 1974. His early life and family details remain mostly unknown, although it is known that he had several previous criminal convictions. He was charged with burglary and dangerous driving, and when he was younger he was cautioned with possessing a weapon at Manchester Airport. Zahid lived in Sheffield, England during his late 20s and early 30s. At this time, he had experienced a severe car accident, which left him in a coma and eventually reliant on a wheelchair.
Damn.
Now, this account came from Zahid himself exclusively, with no information on the accident anywhere, which raises concerns over the legitimacy of the story. During the early 2000s, Zahid turned to online dating, where he used a striking profile photo featuring gold bullion stacks as a backdrop. This image suggested that he was very wealthy, or at least associated with money himself. His attempt to attract a partner by projecting a false image of wealth eventually succeeded when he connected with Kay Rayworth. In 2005, when Zahid was 31 and Kay was 44, they started dating. Kay was born in 1960 and...
What the fuck? Whoa. Who is this Zahid kid? I see Jimmy Prout, bro. Who?
Married her first husband when she was young. They went on to have 2 children.
What the fuck? Over dating? Yo, this over dating app? Y'all niggas, y'all took it that serious? Okay.
They divorced in the early 1990s. Kay lived in North Shields, which is a town just northeast of Newcastle, a large city in northern England. A close friend of Kay's, named Helen O'Keefe, was later interviewed. She mentioned that Kay was a carer and that she was lovely to be around. She said she was gentle, caring, and a genuinely nice person.
She looked insane.
She was also a regular attendee of church and sang in the choir. She was well liked and had a range of close friends who she kept regular contact with. Kay would later remarry, but the relationship fell apart and the two divorced. Following her divorce from her second husband, she spiraled into a depression and began seeking the attention of men and entered into some casual flings.
Bro, you're 44, gang. God, not saying that you can't find love, but yo, goddamn. 44, homie? Ma'am, you're 44, ma'am, okay? You're 44. Let's be real, come on. Understand love never dies out, but yo, don't you think like it's time to hang your jersey up? Just find someone your age, a little older, and just get married to them. Like at this point, it gets to a point, bro. Come on.
Susan Gordon was a close friend of Kay's. Their friendship dated back to school in the 1970s, and she considered Kay more like her sister. They would see each other every single day. However, their friendship changed after Kay met Zahid on an online dating site. Susan noticed that Kay began to change, suggesting Zahid's influence, gradually isolating her from friends and familiar connections in the community.
Wow.
Zahid and Kay's relationship developed into a serious relationship pretty quickly. He then requested that he come to live with her at her house.
Damn, off the rip? This can't be off the rip. Having somebody live with you off the rip, especially from a dating app, is kind of insane. It is kind of insane, I ain't gonna lie.
Kay was in a desperate state. She was flattered by the attention she was getting from a younger man, and so she accepted his request. When he arrived, he gave her £20,000 towards her mortgage. It is unclear where Zahid got this money from.
20,000? 20,000?
As more time went on, Zahid began asserting his control within the household, and soon enough, he began dictating Kay's every move.
Oh, Jesus.
He restricted her contact with her friends, dictated who she could see and who she couldn't see, and slowly made her cut off contact with everyone. As a result, she became very withdrawn and lost contact with her friends. She became extremely isolated and even stopped attending church.
Damn.
Eventually, her contact with her children reduced dramatically too. On one occasion, Susan Gordon once saw Zahid and Kay in a cafe. When Kay tried ordering some bacon, Zahid told her she wasn't allowed. Susan questioned this and said that she is a Christian, not a Muslim. But Zahid stated that she would have to brush her teeth before kissing him if she ate it.
The fuck? Is this motherfucker in a wheelchair?
Susan later said that Kay appeared to be dishevelled, a hollowed-out version of her former self. She became worried of Zahid's control and for her well-being. After this point, Kay would often avoid eye contact with friends if she saw them in public, and would always lower her head.
Wow.
Under Zahid's influence, Kay eventually converted from Christianity to Islam, which was a shift that puzzled her former friends. Over time, Zahid's behaviour...
I'm not gonna lie, I'd have been like, yo, what the fuck, too? Like, yo, you go from church all your life. Like, if I'm your friend, and you go from church to the masjid I'm gonna be like, what the hell? Like, I'm gonna question that. Like, yo, what made you change? Cause you was really going to church ever since I met you for years, and then you go to the masjid. Like, yo, what? I'm gonna be questioning. I'm gonna question you. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna think, yo, is he a man? Like, is he forcing you? Whatever.
Over Kay became increasingly violent. He frequently attacked her with his crutches, which he either used for walking or carried with him when he was in his wheelchair. Okay. His aggression often extended to hammering the walls of the house in fits of rage. On one reported occasion, he even spat in Kay's face.
Damn.
When confronted about his behaviour, Zahid would excuse his aggression, claiming that it stemmed from head trauma due to his injuries, which he said had altered his personality. This explanation served to justify his escalating abuse while keeping Kay under his control. Kay attempted to leave Zahid multiple times, but he used calculated tactics to prevent her from breaking free.
He's a manipulator. He's a manipulator for sure.
One of his methods was claiming membership in a criminal gang from Sheffield, reinforcing his claim by wearing a bulletproof vest to appear dangerous and connected. These manipulations kept Kay feeling trapped and fearful, which cemented his control over her. His behaviour behind closed doors was juxtaposed to his public image, which at first was something of a saint. Despite allegedly being wheelchair-bound, he volunteered frequently at his local soup hall, where he would help to feed the homeless. He presented himself as a supportive figure in the community, portraying the role of a caregiver and advocate for vulnerable people.
What the fuck?
However, many others didn't buy it. Some people saw him performing activities that seemed inconsistent with a wheelchair-bound person. He was seen running for a bus, jumping out of his wheelchair during heated hours.
Oh, get the fuck out of here. This nigga was running after a bus? Nah. Yo, bro, nah, bro. Get the fuck out of here, bro.
Arguments, and even shoveling sand during a garden construction project.
That's crazy.
So publicly, he exaggerated his disability to gain sympathy and for financial benefits, enhancing his reputation.
That means he's insane. Like, I ain't gonna lie, that means there's really something wrong with him mentally. If he has a wheelchair for sympathy, there's something mentally wrong with him. Like, he needs to get checked out. Like, somebody, like, that needs to get checked.
With charity work to present himself as a model citizen. Privately, however, he was horrific, using manipulation to mentally and physically control those close to him. By 2009, after 4 years with Kay, Zahid returned to online platforms, including Facebook. He did this to seek a second partner. He resumed his catfishing tactics, using a profile photo featuring a gold bullion background, presenting himself as a heroic man of the people. Although it took him several years to find someone willing to join his and Kay's relationship, he persuaded a woman named Myra Wood to enter their circle. Myra Wood was born on the 29th of October 19...
Bro, I'm not gonna lie, yo. Why these people, they look scary, my nigga. Like, yo, these niggas look like fucking... The lady she got, and shout out to the woman. Bro, the lady she's pulling, they look like motherfucking creatures. Not even trying to be rude. Like, they look mad scary, bro. Like, that's just... He got a type. Nah, he got a type for sure. And he's fucking... You know how committed you gotta be to have a catfish page? And wait years to find someone? Nah, okay.
In 1966, Myra was not socially inexperienced, but she did have a troubled childhood, resulting in struggles with depression, anxiety, and PTSD. By 2011, she was divorced and had a daughter, Elizabeth, who remembered her as a loving mother until her relationship with Zahid distanced Myra from her family.
That's crazy.
Elizabeth later said, "She was all for him, and not for us." Initially, Zahid seemed polite and charming. However, when Myra was released from a 16-week sentence for theft in 2013, she had no place to live, and so Kay and Zahid offered her a room in Kay's home. This brought Myra and Kay together under one roof for the first time, despite their long acquaintance. Myra later described this as a pivotal point, where Zahid's control intensified. Myra was financially vulnerable. She worked as a cleaner, but she was barely able to make ends meet. Despite this, Zahid started demanding large quantities of money from her for his support, which in turn made her more reliant on him. He eventually made Myra one of his official carers, allowing her to claim carer's allowance, which he took from her as well.
What the fuck?
Their relationship grew increasingly hostile, with Zahid erupting in rage during arguments, mirroring his attacks on Kay. Physical violence escalated, including strangling Myra multiple times. Both women suffered under his control. They were sometimes pinned down to the floor under his weight and strangled or slapped. Zahid shouted that he could kill them if he wanted to. At times, he held a knife to Myra's abdomen, nearly following through on his death threats. According to Myra, Zahid had some incredibly dark fetishes. He would force both of the women to drink his urine, which he used as a calculated display of dominance and control.
Come on. Come on, my nigga. Come on, my nigga. Just that ass. I'm not gonna lie. If I was one of those ladies, we'd have set up a plan to get him going. I'm gonna keep it a buck.
Kay was reluctant, but Myra obliged. Zay had both Kay and Myra under his full control, but his disturbing behaviour escalated even further. He developed a perverse interest in animals, and began watching illegal videos involving animals. And eventually, he acquired dogs himself. He started pressuring Kay and Myra to engage in acts with the animals. Both women claimed they refused, but recalled his persistent attempts. Soon enough, he began looking for a third partner. His next two victims were a woman called Anne Corbett and a man named Jimmy Prout. Anne was significantly younger than Zahid and the other women. She was born on the 8th of November 1990 and was in her 20s when she met Zahid. Anne had a history of instability and learning difficulties, often finding herself homeless. Zahid discovered her vulnerabilities and offered her a place to stay. But the space was limited in Kay's home. To accommodate her, he persuaded Kay to acquire a second home just down the road. This is where Anne, Myra, and Jimmy Prout eventually resided. Jimmy Prout was born around 1970, and he had a troubled background. He was born and raised in Newcastle and was the sixth youngest of 8 siblings. His mother struggled with depression, while his father frequently worked away. This led to several of the children, including Jimmy, spending time in child protective custody. This, along with his learning difficulties, had a drastic impact on him and made him particularly vulnerable. Although Jimmy once had a stable life with his ex-wife Mandy Carter, along with their 2 children, but his life later unravelled. When his life fell apart, he took on casual jobs, engaged in minor criminal activities, and ultimately became homeless, making him susceptible to Zahid's influence and control. Despite this, it is said that Jimmy Prout had a good nature, but Zahid, he took control of his good nature by making Jimmy undertake laborious tasks for no pay. Jimmy was the cleaner and handyman of both properties. But not only this, he would also carry out any errand Zahid requested. He was essentially Zahid's slave. Jimmy felt indebted to Zahid, who provided the home and a sense of family he had longed for. And so, without question, he followed Zahid's commands. Zahid maintained an intimate relationship with Anne, but over time, Anne also became involved with Jimmy. In public, the group would follow Zahid in a specific order, walking in line with him leading. There would then be Myra and Kay directly behind.
Yo, my nigga, who the fuck this nigga think he is, bro? What the fuck? There's no way he got this much power over these people, bro. Nah, gang.
And then Anne, followed by Jimmy at the back, signifying his position as the lowest in the hierarchy. Fear of Zahid dominated the group, and Jimmy was clearly treated as the most inferior member.
Like, look at this nigga, bro. Somebody smack the shit out this nigga now, please. Somebody holler at this nigga, bro. There's 3 of them. We could have fixed them. There's 4 of us, matter of fact. We could have hollered at this nigga. 3 girls, 1 nigga. We could have hollered at them. What? This nigga is disabled, gang? Y'all letting this nigga do whatever?
2014, Zahid attended the People's Kitchen Christmas party for the homeless, mingling with local dignitaries, including the Mayor of Newcastle and Gateshead, who posed for a photograph with him. But within a year of this photograph, Zahid's abuse escalated sharply, leading to the tragic and gruesome events that would ultimately define this case. In autumn of 2015, Anne's brother Ivan came to stay at the second property. He needed shelter, but of course Zahid saw this as a chance to add Ivan into his cult-like group. But Ivan was strong-willed and physically capable, and so he was able to resist Zahid's influence.
Okay.
Subsequently, tensions rose and the two clashed. According to Zahid, a few of his tools went missing. They weren't particularly valuable, but it was enough to enrage him. Ivan soon left to avoid any further conflict, but because of this, Zahid's anger turned to Jimmy. The group, led by Zahid, grew increasingly hostile towards Jimmy, though by all accounts, he was innocent. Zahid intensified the control over Jimmy, boarding up the windows to the second property and subjecting him to relentless attacks.
That's crazy.
Dissatisfied with Jimmy's work, Zahid beat him, with the women in the group often watching, and sometimes they would all laugh. There is evidence suggesting that they joined in. Zahid's punishments included physical assaults, punching, slapping, cutting, and even suffocation. He also ordered the women to starve Jimmy, rationing his meals as another form of control. Zahid's cruelty extended to forcing Jimmy to stand for long periods of time. Jimmy was too afraid to resist, and he obeyed Zahid's commands, enduring the torture in silence.
See. Yo, Jimmy, I'm sorry, man. Sorry this had to happen to you. I'm guessing Jimmy's the victim here. I'm sorry this had to happen to you, bro. This shit is out of pocket, bro. So all those 3 ladies ain't even, they, what the fuck? They not innocent? I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on here? What am I watching, bro? This nigga basically made a cult and he has slaves, basically. And this nigga's disabled. I don't give a fuck if niggas saw him running or not. Niggas did see him running though. But it's like, yo, bro, like, goddamn, gang. Why they ain't want to stop this nigga? Like, what he had? Is he rich? Like, what the fuck? He's not rich. This nigga's a catfish. How the fuck is he pulling these people? And how the fuck do we got so much control and power?
It's not always clear why victims stay with their abusers, but perhaps Jimmy was too weak from the abuse, or he had nowhere to go, or maybe both. However, Jimmy attempted to reach out by posting distressing images and messages on social media, hoping that someone might recognize his plight.
Damn.
He shared photographs of himself crying or showing his frail and beaten body, accompanied by captions that hinted at the abuse he was suffering. He would write, "My mouth hurts, my body hurts, my cheek hurts, my shoulder hurts, I need help, I am in so much pain.
Nobody help
His
him?
posts painted a picture of desperation, and yet they went unnoticed. Apart from Anne liked all of the pictures. From the images, it is clear that Jimmy's shoulder had gone some serious blunt force trauma. The sadistic torture was entirely orchestrated by Zahid, and his bloodlust was only escalating. Zahid remembered that he still had pliers in his toolbox. He took the pliers, forced Jimmy's mouth open, and began to pull out his teeth. According to the women, when Zahid came across a particularly stubborn tooth, he would get out his hammer and chisel the deeply rooted tooth.
Oh, no. They lucky I wasn't there. Yo, Jimmy, I'm sorry, man. If I was Jimmy, I'd have had the Gen 5 with the hollow mag and the... Oh, boy. I'm telling you. Bro, what? They torturing this man at this point, bro. And he's posting on Facebook and nobody not caring to ask him like, yo, he don't got no friends. He must have had no friends on Facebook, right? Because if she's the only person liking that shit, he had to have no friends on that shit. Because there's no way people did not see that shit. There's no way, bro.
On some occasions, Zahid would bring the dog round to the second property. At Zahid's command, Jimmy was forced to have intercourse with the dogs, whilst he watched for his pleasure. The women did nothing to stop the cruelty to Jimmy and the dogs. Now this next part is unbelievably gruesome. Just when you would think the abuse couldn't get any worse, Zahid decided that he was going to remove one of Jimmy's testicles. Zahid pulled out his Stanley knife. This is a knife used for cutting carpets and other building fabrics. He passed the knife to Anne Corbett and told her to cut open his scrotum and remove one of his testicles. Anne made the initial cut, but then she refused as she just couldn't bear it any longer. So Zahid grabbed the Stanley knife and did it himself. Jimmy was given no painkillers before, during, or after. Zahid proceeded to cut the scrotum and attached the testicle before force-feeding it to Jimmy. He then made sure that Jimmy consumed it. Zahid then commanded Anne to burn the wound with a heated metal bolt to seal it before
God, I just need time to pray.
sewing it up. Jimmy would of course been in extreme pain, but the others in the group just watched and laughed, and they would later kick him in the groin. On the 27th of November 2015, Jimmy visited the hospital in severe pain. Despite his obvious
Wait, he's still alive? He was still alive? What?
injuries, he concealed the true cause, only hinting that he knew the person responsible. He refrained from identifying the attacker, fearing further harm, and this was noted in his medical records. Yet, despite them realizing, no action was taken to report the attacks, and Jimmy was simply given a sick note before being sent home.
What?
On the 30th of November, Jimmy returned to the hospital, accompanied by Zahid and Anne. Zahid dominated the conversation, explaining Jimmy's injuries as the result of an assault and insisting that Jimmy needed an extended sick note. When the doctor examined Jimmy, he observed stab wounds, to which Zahid claimed that Jimmy's attackers had attempted to stab him but failed because Jimmy was wearing a number of coats. The doctor noted the previous visit, and in his medical notes there was writing pointing to signs that Jimmy was suffering greatly. Yet no action followed. Several weeks later, they returned to the doctor again. This time, the doctor had a member of the learning disability team present. The doctor raised concerns about Jimmy's missing teeth, prompting Anne to claim that Jimmy had removed them himself. The doctor and his team noticed Jimmy's fearful demeanour, but Zahid convinced them that Jimmy's injuries were self-inflicted and that they were simply just trying to take care of him.
Okay, but is Jimmy not speaking? Like, I'm pretty sure, like, doctors, like, y'all would know, right? Like, come on, if he got another nigga speaking for him and Jimmy is not talking at all and you notice his body language, I'm pretty sure y'all know this nigga's in danger. So why the fuck is nobody doing shit?
Despite signs of extreme neglect and harm, no further intervention occurred, leaving Jimmy under Zahid's control. And the attacks continued. Jimmy's health deteriorated rapidly, eventually leaving him so frail that he could only walk if Kay and Myra held him up by each arm. Surveillance footage captured moments where Kay and Myra dragged Jimmy through the streets against his will. Zahid, Myra, Kay, and Anne showed complete contempt for him. In one sickening incident, Myra and Zahid were on a bus and they showed a local woman photos of Jimmy's bruised and battered body. As Zahid displayed the images, Myra laughed,
lifeless.
and the woman was deeply horrified. His skin was bruised to the point of blackness, and she expressed concerns. But Zahid dismissed it, saying that Jimmy deserved the attacks. Another disturbing incident occurred on a frigid morning in January 2016, when a neighbour found Jimmy slumped against her gate, wearing only a sleeveless jacket. Jimmy was too weak to stand up, and he could only manage to say the words, "Help me." Despite these distressing interactions and multiple doctor visits, these red flags were ignored. Ultimately, there were 17 documented opportunities where authorities or witnesses could have intervened and saved Jimmy.
That ass.
But they never did, and ultimately, Jimmy's days were numbered. It would be Anne who delivered the final and brutal act. In the early morning hours of the 9th of February 2019, Jimmy was in extreme pain. Because of this pain, he screamed through the night. Because of his screaming, Myra called Zahid, and the group gathered to decide how to silence him. Zahid instructed Anne to gag him, which she did. According to Anne, what happened next was accidental, but she used a piece of clothing to wrap around his mouth and nose. Laying there, battered, bruised, and alone, Jimmy suffocated to death. At 6 a.m., Jimmy passed away. Once the gang realized that Jimmy was dead, they wrapped his body up in layers of clothing and placed him into a sleeping bag. The gang then transported him to a barren area around 100 meters away from the home. They left him there hidden in the shrubs and exposed to the elements.
That's crazy.
To cover their tracks, Zahid later burned evidence in a bonfire before the group attempted to resume their lives as normal, as if nothing had even happened. Although, soon enough, the group began breaking down under guilt and paranoia, fearing that they might be caught. Each member had blood on their hands. None of the women were mere bystanders. They either inflicted harm or allowed Jimmy's torture to continue. On the 25th of March 2016, a fight erupted between Zahid and Anne, prompting Zahid to call the police. Zahid claimed that Anne had attacked him and that she had killed Jimmy Prout.
Oh, shit.
In a pathetic and desperate attempt to save himself from the crime, Zahid tried to pin all of the blame on Anne. The police arrived to find Zahid inconsolable, surrounded by a distressed Kay and Myra. But inconsistencies in his story raised suspicion. The following day, the police arrested Zahid, Anne, Kay, and Myra for questioning. Zahid, Kay, and Myra planned to blame everything on Anne. But in another police room, Anne had confessed to the location of Jimmy's body. She admitted that she had suffocated him by accident and led the police to his remains. On the 27th of March 2016, Jimmy's badly decomposed body was discovered. Jimmy's body had been partially consumed by wildlife, although enough evidence remained of the extensive attacks. Numerous broken bones showed a history of torture over the past year. A post-mortem confirmed the barbaric treatment. The group's stories quickly crumbled, leading to charges for Jimmy's murder. The trial began on the 3rd of May 2017. All 4 of the gang pleaded not guilty to murder, displaying little remorse for the medieval-style torture inflicted upon Jimmy. In the end, Zahid and Anne were found guilty of murder, while Kay and Myra were convicted of causing or allowing death of a vulnerable adult. Zahid received a minimum sentence of 33 years and stared blankly at the floor as he was sentenced. Anne was given a sentence of a minimum 27 years. She was given some leniency for aiding in Jimmy's recovery. Kay received 12 years and 4 months. and Myra was given 9 years. In closing, the judge addressed Zahid directly. He said, "You were the leader of the household and its dictator. Unsatisfied with having Jimmy as a lackey, you turned him into a victim, attacking him repeatedly. I'm sure that you took great pleasure in his suffering." As the gang exited the courtroom, onlookers shouted, "I hope you rot in hell."
That was kind of gruesome. I'm not gonna lie. That shit is fucking horrid. That's insane, bro. Banger video. Banger video. Crazy video, but it was a banger. I'll see you on the next video.